Social media. So, in this presentation we'll have a look at what you need to know about it, the social internet revolution that's unfolding, something about business apps and implications for business, and then a look at some further resources. There are more than 1.5 billion active Facebook users each month. That's a lot. YouTube have over 1 billion users every day. A very large number. There are 1 billion registered Twitter users and 100 million daily tweeters. The top 20 countries on Twitter, well, half of the world's Twitter tweeters are American. Brazil have really taken up Twitter big time. The UK next, and then it begins to fall away. Canada, Germany, Indonesia, Australia, the Netherlands, India, Japan, Mexico. If Facebook were a country, it would be the world's third largest. Of course, China the biggest, India the second biggest, and Facebook the third biggest. Have a look at this video later. 11 billion photos are hosted on Flickr. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the phenomenon of Web 2.0. Well, what was Web 1.0 then? Web 1.0, though of course nobody referred to it as that at the time, goes back to the origins of the web. So for example, in 1996, there were about 250,000 websites. It was all published content. There was a little bit of user-generated content, but not very much, and about 45 million people using the internet. 10 years later, in 2006, it's the other way round. Almost. Yes, there's still a huge amount of published content, but look at that. Nearly a third, certainly more than a quarter, is user-generated content. And this is Facebook, YouTube, Flickr, and so on. And there are 80 million websites. There's a link here to the internet in 1969, which is worth having a look at. So what we're looking at is a revolution from the read to the read and write web, between Web 1 and Web 2, where user-generated content becomes the more important aspect of it, the power of the masses. Web 3.0, coming up, it's a bit like a personal assistant. It understands what you want before you want it and gives it to you. It analyzes what's going on. There's a paper on Web 3.0 that you can have a look at another time. Demographics is an important part of this social media revolution. The world population will be bigger by 2 billion by 2050. It's already twice the size it was when I was born in 1963. There were only 3.5 billion. There's now over 7 billion. And 70% of these people will be in cities, served by broadband. In the United States, 5 million people aged between 18 and 34 and 15 million aged between 35 and 64 live alone, according to a New York Times report. This same report found that in Stockholm, 60% of households have single occupants, and in Paris the figure is more than 50%. Now this may be a Euro-American trend, but it is certainly something that the New York Times report suggests is coming to the rest of the world. The extent of the dramatic global demographic changes to come can be seen most clearly in China. In 2012, the country had 7.9 workers, that's people aged between 20 and 64, for every person over 65. By 2050, there will only be 2.2 workers for every person over 65. So not only is the population growing massively, more and more of that population are living alone, and more of that population are over 65. So there are established markets in the internet. 3.1 billion people have been reached by the internet as of 2015. China is the biggest, then the United States, then India. Brazil have overtaken Japan for the 4th slot in 2015, and Indonesia is 6th and Russia 7th. People are beginning to feel that having access to the internet is a basic human right, which means that half the world's population have their rights curtailed because they don't have access to the internet. As more and more consumers become connected and go online, brands are flocking in their wake. The digitally native, the under 10s, Generation I, already influence more than $1 trillion of consumer spending, and that's from 2013. As you can see from this AVG graphic, a quarter of children have pre-birth scans uploaded to the internet by their parents. Their digital footprint begins before they are born. So, a quick summary. The social internet revolution that we're witnessing includes 300 hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every minute. Billions of video views, of which the main source are now mobile devices. Alibaba took $14.3 billion on Singles Day in 2015 in China, $9.8 billion on mobile devices. 50% of global YouTube views come from mobile devices, and more than 60% of a creator's views come from outside their home country. $15 billion per year worldwide revenue on virtual goods. And 3/4 of the UK population has a smartphone. So, should businesses care about social media? Well, clearly they should. Traditional advertising can be avoided. You can watch things on demand on telly. You have pop-up blockers on all your mobile devices and desktop devices. You have call barring. You can ignore unknown numbers. You can fast forward on Sky Plus and various other TV services. Consumers don't really trust advertisers or marketing or business leaders. They trust each other. So, which companies are using social media creatively? By the end of 2009, Dell had generated $6.5 million in sales from Twitter alone, interestingly, and continued to go from strength to strength. CEO Tom Dixon of BlendTech grew up testing the capabilities of the blenders he invented by blending items such as wood. BlendTech started filming Dixon's experiments, and soon home sales of blenders increased by more than 700%. You may have seen the BlendTech video of CEO Tom Dixon blending a mobile phone. You remember Toyota had to recall 2.3 million vehicles because of faulty accelerator pedals? Well, the president of Toyota went online to face the public, answering posted questions. Probably the biggest indicator of interest was that there were 3,200 questions, and within a week, the video had received 1.2 million views. In fact, by doing this, Toyota actually managed the problem of the recall quite successfully. Cancer research. The no makeup selfie, you may recall, not very long ago. This campaign raised more than £8 million for Cancer Research UK. So, how do you go about it? Well, business blogs are a good start, a corporate tool for communicating with customers or employees to share knowledge and expertise. Blogs are an excellent method to share a company's expertise, build additional web traffic, and connect with potential customers. It's something that you will do. It's a digital profile that you can build online. So, to sum up, one message in social media becomes distributed across various channels, through blogs, through YouTube, through Twitter, through Facebook, and reaches many people who share it with many others, who share it with many, many more. It's also possible, of course, to get it very badly wrong. Social media requires some understanding and management. BT have developed some software to monitor their social media presence, and businesses are increasingly making use of monitoring and reacting to events. Sometimes it goes wrong. You may understand something called the bash tag. McD stories was a fascinating bash tag created in 2012 to encourage loyal customers to share their best experiences in the famous fast food chain. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well. Hash McD stories. I lost 50 pounds in 6 months after I quit working and eating at McDonald's was a classic example. One time I walked into McDonald's and I could smell type 2 diabetes floating in the air and I threw up. Hash McD stories. There are many, many other examples. We're living in a 2.0 world, but we are increasingly part of the mobile generation. There are 2.4 billion smartphones in use worldwide, and the Internet of Things and a Web 3.0 world are rapidly on their way.